Used to be a secret agent. Few years ago, was in Somalia's coast on a mission. Definitely not a vacation spot. Super dry and hot. Just pure hostility there. Always on your toes 'cause danger's everywhere. It's legit scary knowing every step you take could be your last. When the mission brief came, I felt sick to my stomach. But as an operative, you gotta play the hand you're dealt. The task seemed straightforward enough. Intel pointed towards some illegal weapons stashed away on some far-off cliffs by the sea. Our task? Sneak in, snap pics, sneak out, and get the evidence back to base. Piece of cake, yeah? First night, we were practically invisible, sticking close to the rough seaside. There was hardly any moonlight, making everything look super spooky. Couldn't use any artificial light in case we got spotted. Avoided mean patrols and cliffs in the dark. Day 2, we were chilling in a trashed fisherman's hut waiting till nightfall. So damn hot and silent, plus it stank of salt water, rotting seaweed, and dried fish guts, pretty freaking grim. Noticed something weird pretty quick. I chalked it up to just mission jitters messing with me. But then, this really funky smell snuck into our shelter, which was like a wet dog on steroids. It just got worse as the day went on, and no matter what, we couldn't shake it off. So I stepped outside and dang, the stench was rough. Then I heard this weird whooping sound. Wasn't scary or anything, but super weird considering everything else was dead quiet. Freaks me out thinking about it now. So, we picked up our mission again once it hit night. We were making our way through this insane maze of cliffs and caves, feeling like something was watching us. The eerie noises in the wind were making things weirder. We'd hear them, look at each other, but we had a job to do, so we didn't talk about it. Around midnight, while dealing with a particularly tough cliff, we finally bumped into the creature. Saw this huge, sketchy figure standing up on a ridge under the stars. Even though it was pretty far, I could totally see its creepy, glowing eyes in the moonlight. Guys, something weird happened. My instincts were yelling danger, but whatever it was seemed distant. So we just kept going. We all saw it, but nobody wanted to say what we all were thinking. It was massive, like bigger than any dude or critter I've ever seen. And get this, it stood on 2 legs like us. Crazy, right? So there's this creature, right? Totally covered in hair. We didn't plan on meeting it, but here we were. Anyways, we picked a path away from it and kept going. As we moved, the smell got worse, but that weird whooping sound stopped. Talk about a close call. Started piecing together all the funky stuff that's happened since we got here. It all points to the monster. My senses went nuts and everything got super intense. Found a skinny trail with a cliff on one side and a ditch on the other. The stench got worse, carried by the wind, making me feel I wasn't alone. I could tell that whatever was out there was way too close now. Out of nowhere, a downright creepy growl filled the night. It was like nothing I'd ever heard before, skin-crawling and kind of beyond words. That beast really freaked me out. I can still remember it vividly. I saw it again in the moonlight, too close this time. Was it the same one we saw on the ridge earlier? Were there more of these things? Wasn't sure I wanted to know. This beast was huge, probably around 12 feet. It was all covered in this reddish-brown hair. Found it bent over a carcass. Guess we crashed its dinner. This dude was definitely not the same one we spotted before. It makes you wonder, how many more are out there? He swung his cone head in our direction, little eyes gleaming like some freaky mood light. Dude had a face straight out of the Stone Age. Its skin was darker and had no hair. When the moonlight hit its massive chest and broad shoulders, I quietly called for backup, knowing it was our only way out. Me and my crew slowly backed off, being extra careful not to tip off the monster. I kept my eyes on it, gripping my sidearm. Even though we kept moving back, all I wanted to do was run, but our training kept us grounded. Still hearing the beast growling, we quickly hid behind some boulders. We were freaked out, peering into the darkness to hopefully see it. Time dragged on, and finally the freaky sounds stopped, drowned out by crashing waves. We caught our breath for a moment, then got back to the mission. We collected what we needed, got our weapons stashed, and called for immediate pickup. Heard our chopper coming and felt a little less scared. Jumped in and took a last look at the cliffs. Still felt crappy, but also kind of relieved. Some guys said we imagined the monster because we were tired, but nah, it was real. We all saw it. This whole Bigfoot thing really messed with my head, made me wonder about everything we know. Still can't wrap my brain around bumping into what I'm pretty sure was a Sasquatch. So wild, guys. I'm not a park ranger or officially with the fire department, just a volunteer firefighter. We rarely get pulled into national park fires. They usually handle it fast with experts. But sometimes they rope us in for the massive fires. Usually, we're not dealing with stuff specifically in national parks, but this time was different. I was the closest one to check out a smoke report in Cuyahoga. The Park Service was busy with something else and needed someone to see what was up. Chances are I was just about to find some campers who didn't know how to handle their fire. I'd probably clean up their campsite, give them a talk, and head out. Not a big deal. They let me kick out campers if needed, and I was told to put the smoke trail's coordinates in my GPS. If it was more than just a few campers with a big fire, I could radio the Park Service. Cuyahoga looked good that day. Wished I got out more while heading towards the smoke from a hiking route. As I got closer, the smell was stronger. Then boom, ran into some campers bolting from their site. My mind instantly went to out-of-control fire. They were freaking out about something. 3 of them going on about some dude they bumped into at the start of their hike. Sounded like the guy was back at camp and had lost his marbles. This dude built a massive fire and was ready to chuck them into it. I wasn't ready for that level of crazy. Shot a call to Park Service and told them the whole deal. They just said to go for it. What's that supposed to mean? Got it. I just followed orders. Still had to tackle the fire, didn't I? Despite some nut job running around the park. I mean, I've got a bit of self-defense up my sleeve, so I wasn't totally screwed. The Park Service were being weirdly pushy. They didn't seem shocked by the report. Seems like they just wanted proof or something. If there was some 4th guy out there, they needed to know. Probably they couldn't risk having a forest firebug roaming around. So I sent the campers back down the road they came from. Seriously, that fire was no joke. Looked like some witch-burning business going on. Good for me, though, it was almost out. We could put it out, smother it even, if need be. Almost grabbed my radio, but heard someone moving. 4th camper. Dude stayed silent, just peeking at me from behind a tree. The park rangers knew about the fire. I figured they'd show up soon from my earlier chat with them. They wouldn't know about this guy, though. Tried to approach him, but he bolted. Lost him real quick. So he sprinted off, knowing this place way better than me. Before I knew it, I was following his footprints. No idea how. Dude was barefoot, leaving clear marks in the dirt. What's about to happen next is why I can't forget this. Followed some footprints that weirdly changed from human to coyote. Bounced back to camp to check in with the rangers. Got back and everything was getting packed up. Fire was out, camps torn down. They were just stuffing stuff into bags. Told them about the extra dude. They said I dreamt the whole thing up. Apparently the woods can mess with your head if you're expecting something. They insisted there was no 4th camper. Everything found belonged to the 3 others. They reckon the fire simply went haywire and they just needed a scapegoat. Convinced myself it was a good enough reason and it made sense. But I didn't buy it. Saw something off. So I went back the next day solo. Wanted to check out more of the Cuyahoga, right? Walked past the campsite. It's taped off now, like government-level official. Like nothing I've seen in the parks, except at a crime scene. Checked out those tracks and guess what? They were still there. Kind of faded, but totally visible. Turns out I wasn't tripping or anything. Seriously chased something that shapeshifted from a man to a dog. Apparently there's some wild stuff going down in the park that the service folks already knew about. Found something they're trying to keep hush-hush. Never wrote into a show before, but something happened that's bugging me. Hoping someone here might say they know about it or have experienced something similar. I'm based near Franconia Notch, New Hampshire. Don't really want to give out the exact location, but it's a cozy little Christian town. So I've got this fear of what my neighbors might think if I told them I spotted something weird on my property. We've got black bears around here, those little trash bandits, and I've seen one pilfering seeds from my bird feeder. Naturally, I thought the knocked-over cans were bear antics. Oh, and by the way, I'm not the type to go shooting animals. I don't have a gun. If a bear comes close, banging a couple of frying pans usually does the trick to scare them off unless it's a mama bear with cubs. I live in the sticks, far from city lights, so it gets super dark here. The cool thing is, you can see tons of stars. So I've been having issues with my trash cans. Got some motion sensor lights to deal with it. A couple of weeks ago, I was chilling watching the news when the lights turned on and a trash can was knocked over. Rushed to the kitchen to grab saucepans, figured I could scare the bears away. But when I got outside, there weren't any bears. The lights were on, and all I saw was my knocked-over trash can. Trash was spilled, but nothing was ripped apart. I thought the bear booked it when the lights came on. I was barefoot, but I knew I had to clean up the mess before raccoons wreaked more havoc. Went back into the kitchen to throw on my wellies before heading out to yard. I spotted a bag, but saw it was kind of wet. No rain recently, and the trash can was dry, so I was grossed out thinking whether some critter might have peed on it. Gave a quick sniff, but nothing really stuck out. Decided to go the easy route and grabbed some latex gloves from the side porch. The backyard light timed out, and it was super annoying because I had to find the gloves in the dark. Ended up finding them, though, without needing a flashlight. Walked over to the trash cans in the backyard. Just as I was getting there, the motion lights kicked back on. Saw this freaky creature by the trash bags. Kind of looked like a person, but super skinny and with a long head. It was totally naked, didn't have any hair, and its skin was this weird pale color. Seriously creeped me out. Saw this thing crawling like some sort of beast. Scared the hell out of me. My brain couldn't figure it out. I made a sound, it looked up, and man, that face was nightmare fuel. Saw this thing with huge black eyes, no nose, and a freaky gaping mouth. I think it noticed me because it started clicking. Got scared shitless, but before I could even run, it zoomed off like flash. So it's outside, right? And like it's just chilling on the side of my garage. Not on the ground, but legit on the side of the frickin' wall, like straight up defying gravity. No joke, I was terrified. Couldn't look away. Thought I was gonna faint. It was that intense. This thing bolted up onto the roof. Freaky, right? One moment it's here, the next it's gone. Then the yard lights shut off as I froze, leaving me in pitch black with this freaky creature. Almost wet myself there. Managed to inch forward and the lights flicked back on. Phew. Looked up and the roof was nowhere. Took a couple of ballsy minutes before I could move towards the backyard, but I had to. No other option, really. The back door was the only one unlocked, and that's my exit. Didn't spot it again after that. Hopped back inside and bolted all the doors and windows. Left the trashed garbage can and bags out on the lawn. Didn't really care about raccoons or bears at this point. Haven't had a good night's sleep since. So yeah, that's my tale. Anyone else bumped into this beast and got some deets? Hoping it never shows up again. Now I'm just too freaked to chill outdoors at night. We used to stay in this old, run-down apartment on the less flashy side of town. The building had this cool, somewhat historic vibe to it. For my 10th birthday, my mom gifted me this massive book of ghost stories. My favorite. My bro and I used to love reading ghost stories before bed. Funny how they helped us sleep. Felt like it kind of put our own problems into perspective. So one night, after we finished reading, Mom tucked us in and left the door cracked open to keep out the dark. My little bro was scared of it. I'm chilling on my bed, staring at the door, and bam, a creepy figure flashes across the hallway. No joke. Scared the crap out of me. I was convinced it was just my overactive imagination. That changed fast when my bro yelled, "Mom, was that you?" Mom bolted out looking terrified. She turned the house upside down with a baseball bat, checking everywhere. The thing, or whatever, just disappeared without a trace. After that, things were creepily quiet for weeks. All we did was whisper guesses about that night. Eventually, we told our buddies and family about it. They were anywhere from, "You're full of it," to, "Damn, that's weird." Some even said we were dreaming or mentioned ghosts and stuff, but we both knew better. Then out of nowhere, it's back. A creepy giggle echoed from the hallway. Got some major goosebumps. Then the sound of something small bolting down the hall followed it. Took a bit for my heart to chill. Eventually, I got brave enough to take a peek through the door. So, I legit saw this small shadow running around my corridor again. This wasn't my imagination. It was really there. I kid you not. Just saw it for a second, but man, it freaked me out and piqued my interest at the same time. It was real, it was here, and it seemed to dig my place. And then guess what? Later that week, it happened again. Our room door inched open. Boom, there's this freaky little shadow man just standing there, straight out of a nightmare. His eyes were some twisted shade of red in the dark. Scared as hell, but somehow I found the guts to ask, "Who are you? What do you want?" I freaked out. The freaky thing just smiled and vanished. Sleep? Yeah, right. Not for days. We were too busy trying to figure out what the hell that was. Finally hit jackpot with some research, though. The thing matched the description of an imp. We figured out we were dealing with a mischievous prankster spirit. Knowing what was messing with us was kind of comforting. This ghostly encounter made us question everything. Our love for ghost stories turned into us living a real one, a story we'll tell but wish we hadn't lived through. And just like that, the visits from the imp stopped out of the blue. So the apartment was chill again. All those halls, just ordinary halls. No more spooky vibes behind the doors. The creepy, quiet nights turned back to regular city noise. Everything felt normal, but it wasn't. Not really. 'Cause we were changed. No longer were we just two kids in a rundown city apartment swapping ghost stories. We had lived in one. Sleep came back, but it wasn't the same as when we were innocent. It was the kind of sleep you get when you've seen some stuff. Over time, we chilled out. Years passed, we grew up, and life did its thing. My brother got into science, where everything made sense. Me, I got into history and literature, where the weird stuff's not just okay, it's celebrated. Our lives took different paths, but bumped into each other at the same spot. Childhood stuff really formed us. My bro went all science whiz. I preferred exploring. I was hell-bent on cracking open the world's not-so-ordinary secrets. Every squeaky floorboard, sudden chill, or weird shadow caught from the corner of my eye could be a link to that unexplained stuff we briefly ran into as kids. So that little critter never came back, but I still think about it a lot. I can hardly remember our old house in the city's low-income area, but it definitely shaped us. We basically grew up half in reality and half in the supernatural. Now we're always ready to believe the craziest stuff about the world. Did a stint as a night shift lifeguard at Myrtle Beach one summer during college. Staying awake kinda sucked, but the cash wasn't bad and I got to hang by the sea. The beach is super different at night, less noisy and honestly a bit ghostly. Let me tell you, beaches at night are as beautiful as they're creepy. So there I was, in late June, in the middle of my midnight shift. The beach was nearly empty, with just a random person wandering and the odd lost sandal. The moon was bright that night. I worked prepping the beach for the next day, tidying up leftovers, cleaning furniture, fixing up the lifeguard stand, and ensuring the sand was safe. That night was like any other, doing the usual stuff, while occasionally checking out the peaceful ocean. Chilling in my lifeguard chair, flashlight in hand, my eyes kept bouncing between the endless beach and the roaring ocean. The howling wind and crashing waves created a freaky vibe. Around 2 a.m., things began to get super bizarre. So I was chilling with a book when this humming noise from the sea caught my attention. Out of nowhere, I got the chills even though it was a warm summer night. I thought maybe someone was out in the water, so I grabbed my flashlight. Nothing but the usual sea view, though, waves crashing and all that. But then, I saw this faint light through the mist over the water, kinda like weak moonlight. Saw this light that shapeshifted, can't quite explain it. Looked human-sized, transparent, like seeing someone through fog. It seriously freaked me out. Especially weird, because it was dead still in the midst of the moving sea. Was getting this weird chilly vibe and felt spooked for no reason. I wasn't going to bail without figuring out what was up, though. Something fishy was going on, and I heard this faint voice like a cry for help. Then bam, I'm wide awake and super alert. Felt like sprinting, but work's got me on a leash. Had to see if someone needed a hand. Grabbed the walkie-talkie and started blabbing about this freakish light-up dude. Then, just static and complete silence. My voice was all shaky. Couldn't help it while explaining this crazy crap going down. I was gripping my chair like crazy. Out of nowhere, a cold wind hit, even though it was summer. Super weird. I was seriously spooked, just standing there staring at this weird shadow. As I kept watching, it started to get clearer. Turns out, it was a woman. Sort of see-through and glowing a bit. Kind of hazy, like you're trying to remember a face, but it's slipping away. She glides over the water, totally unfazed by the waves. Spooky, but chill. Kind of looked like she's trying to get to shore, like she wanted to reach me. Heard a creepy woman scream in the quiet again. It was mixed with the sound of waves and tree noise. Totes freaked me out. Called my boss. Dude just told me to call the cops. He clearly didn't know what was up, and it's like 3 a.m. By the time the cops show up, that lady or ghost or whatever is long gone. It's written all over their faces. They think I'm crazy, like my story's straight out of a loony bin. So did some digging that summer into Myrtle Beach's history, found some grim stuff about a woman who drowned there around 50 years ago, like late June. She was out on a late-night beach stroll, weird lullaby rumors, and suddenly she's gone. Looking back, I might have seen a ghost that night. The odd woman, the whispers, that chill. She probably just wanted her story told. Changed my whole outlook on the beach, life, death, the lot. Usually a skeptic, but things are different now. It was hella freaky and sad. Can't get her story out of my head even after all this time. Honestly, just feel super sorry for her. The noise of waves and the beach now just screams crappy night to me. Just a reminder we still got to figure out a ton about life. Did some time with the Army and saw weird shit during training in the Nevada desert. Usually I'd blame it on being tired or my eyes playing tricks on me, but there's this one thing I still can't explain. About 10 years back, we were a week deep into a hardcore 2-week training right in the middle of you-know-where. Let me tell you, the desert doesn't play nice. Super hot days and freezing nights, and just about nothing can survive out there. It's basically all just sand, rocks, and a few stubborn bushes out here, kinda like us. Training was tough but needed. Earning the discipline, endurance, and determination were for actual combat, though the thought of it sucked sometimes. But that's the gig. We were there, pushing ourselves to the limit, preparing for whatever enemy was lurking. Our days were hardcore. We'd be up and at 'em before sunrise, pumping iron and fighting in mock battle scenes till nighttime. Your team pretty much became your fam. You had each other's backs. Late one Arvo, after a killer drill, we were prepping for some night ops, kinda like stealthy mission practice to sneak past the enemy. Sun had set and night hit like a switch. Our squad was getting ready. Our boss gave us the lowdown, his voice steady in the dark. We listened closely, ready for what was coming. It was right when he finished, and before the practice round started, that I felt a weird tingle. Brushed it off at first, thinking it was just nerves or the cold. But it stuck around. Started getting spooky vibes, like when you feel someone's watching you but there's no one there. Tried to ignore it and keep going. Thought maybe getting in my groove would shake it off, but nope, it actually got worse. Some rustling noise snapped me back to reality. I first thought it's just the usual desert noise. But then, bam, it happened again. Heard a weird shuffling sound like dragging a fat suitcase on gravel. Grabbed my night vision goggles, scanned around, and then boom, a massive, freaky shadow in the distance. Wasn't your regular desert shit, you know? Saw something huge out in the desert, way bigger than usual critters. Was about to shout to the boss, but something got me. 2 creepy, glowing yellow eyes staring at me through my night vision. Freaked me out enough that I couldn't even call out. Saw this insane creature that looked like a dude, but was all scaly like a reptile. Honestly, I'm not sure how else to describe it without sounding nuts. This thing was totally jacked. Had a skin that looked like you could grate cheese on it with a weird shiny touch to it. Freaky stuff, you know. Saw this thing with a head like a huge lizard or dinosaur, and man, it had some serious chompers. But the eyes, geez, freaky yellow things staring right at us. Scared me senseless. Still gives me the creeps just thinking about it. Bolted to the command post, yanked off my night vision and pointed where the beast was. No sign of it, just massive claw marks leading to the desert. Found a hidden trapdoor ajar, though. Some kind of lair, maybe. The squad went quiet, all eyes on me, and where I was pointing. Some guys just shrugged it off, saying we were all tired and jumpy. A few, like me, were left staring into the dark, doubting our own eyes. None of us had the guts, or maybe brains, to follow the thing, or even take a look at where it came from. We managed to finish our night op, though it was pretty tense and filled with quiet talk about what I saw. In the end, we left the hidden entrance alone. No one wanted to poke around with whatever was in there. Suddenly, it was over, just as quick as it began. Nights later, we chewed it over with a few beers. What the heck was that thing? Friendly or looking to rip us apart? Should we have told someone about it? We couldn't agree. We did settle on one thing, keeping it a hush-hush. It was way too wild for the usual army paperwork. So, how do you tell your boss you just saw some dinosaur-looking dude in the desert? I had way more questions than answers. Was this a solo act? How many more of them are chilling in the desert out of sight? And what's their opinion on us? Do they actually get scared of us humans? Seriously, I met something that looked like a damn lizard person, and it totally messed with my understanding of reality. Anyone else had a similar freaky encounter? Would be nice to know I'm not alone here.